Hi everyone, welcome back to Julia's story. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from in the comments. If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Sit back, relax, and let's get into the story. Midnight in Skyline Tower sounds like money sleeping. The carpet hushes. The lights hum. The glass walls hold their breath and wait to see who thinks they own the view. That is where I work. A woman with a cart, a caddy, and a key that gets me into rooms where the daylight crowd talks with their teeth. I mop the executive lobby in long, clean stripes. I like my edges straight. There is a shred been tipped crooked near the credenza, red folder wedged in the mouth like a tongue trying to push a lie out. I fish it free because trash tells the best stories. The top sheet is white with a soft gray font that pretends to be gentle. The title says Addendum. A sentence coils across the page and bites. If the signatory is subject to a morality default, triggered by any credible allegation or appearance of misconduct, control of the holding trust transfers automatically to the secondary steward. My brain stops, then sprints. Morality default. Credible allegation. Appearance. Not proof. Not verdict. A rumor with a nice suit and a pen. Secondary steward. I skim to the signature block. The box for his name is blank. The box for hers is printed in neat black letters that do not shake. Ilara Pierce. A sweet little storm waiting to be let loose. The edges of the page have the clean cut of a fresh print, not the ragged teeth of a draft dragged through 10 hands. The footer shows a page number that does not fit the spacing of the text above it. Reprinted. Slipped in. On purpose. I look at the binding holes, feel the rhythm with my thumb. This sheet never belonged where it was supposed to end up. It belonged here, in the bin, after it had done its work. I slide the page under the clean towels in my caddy. You do not wave truth in an office like this. You tuck it next to the bleach and pretend you do not know how to read. Someone coughs at the far end of the hall. Not a janitor cough. Not Bruno with his thermos laugh. This cough wears cologne and the edge of champagne. I set my mop in the bucket like I am married to water and look up slow. Ilara steps out of the private elevator with her coat in her hand and lipstick smudged the color of bruised cherries. Behind her, Rowan Hale adjusts his tie and smooths the front of a shirt that cost more than my month of rent. His eyes flick to me, then to the shred bin, then back to my face. He smiles like a man who tips well and hates to. Ilara laughs with her mouth shut. The doors close with a hush that could slice you if you leaned too far in. The elevator panel flashes down and down until the light disappears. I wring the mop. The water looks like it wants to testify. I finish the floor because I need the pay, and I need the motion, and because I know better than to run when the building starts to listen. In the restroom with a mirror that makes even liars look rested, I lock the door and lift the towels. The addendum lies there, quiet as a blade. I take a photo with my borrowed phone. No flash. No sound. I fold the sheet into fourths and tuck it under the liner of my caddy bag. If anyone digs, they will hit gloves and rags and the smell of lemon before they hit a clause that counts as a loaded gun. When I step back into the corridor, the temperature has shifted by a fraction. The motion sensor over the corner camera clicks alive, a tiny insect noise. The red dot blinks twice and then settles into steady. I push my cart without hurry, the wheels whispering on carpet, the bucket steady as a promise I will keep. Past the fishbowl boardroom where chairs face a view that makes people forget the ground. Past the glass wall with the etched mission statement that uses the word values like a charm bracelet. Past the sculpture that looks expensive mostly because it is heavy. My key lets me into the small kitchen where the daytime executive assistant hides her snacks and her good coffee. I fill my bottle, take one square of dark chocolate, and leave a thank you note in my head because she is the only person on this floor who says my name right. The service elevator hums up from the loading dock, stutters, and opens to an empty car that smells like cardboard and wind. I roll in and press the button for the lobby. The doors close. The car begins to drop. I pat the caddy where the addendum sleeps and feel the paper answer with a small stiff shift that could be breath if you were inclined to be dramatic. I am inclined. The doors open on polished stone and a security desk that looks like a sermon. Bruno lifts his chin at me, eyes warm, thermos on the edge of his elbow like always. He is a man who has seen more night than most. He checks my badge, hands it back with a shrug that means stay safe, and glances over my shoulder toward the silent elevator I did not take. I follow his look and catch a shadow moving behind the smoked glass, just a slice of a shoulder and the slope of a jaw. I push the cart through the turnstile. The lobby doors press out against winter air. The city hits my face with cold and something sharper. I wheel the cart to the curb, notch the brake, and fish my bus card out of the front pocket. My borrowed phone buzzes in the chest pocket of my shirt, close enough to feel like a nudge from a friend who is not one. Unknown number. One line. Walk away. Lena. No greeting. No punctuation. Just the command and my name, spelled right. The screen reflects the lobby lights for a second, then dies in my hand as if the battery had learned fear. The wind lifts the hem of my shirt and finds skin that has worked for 9 hours. I taste the metallic snap of adrenaline at the back of my tongue. The bus rounds the corner, grinds to a stop, doors folding open like a promise no one plans to keep. I step up, flash the card, and take the sideways seat that lets me watch the doors and the aisle and the street outside without turning my head too often. The bus pulls away. Skyline Tower slides behind us, the top floors still glowing like a crown. I think of the clause again, the words that dress like silk and cut like wire. Morality default. Credible allegation. Appearance. A man like Damien Cade is a headline waiting to be used. If he signs, the board does not need a truth. It needs a rumor. If he signs, Elara smiles pretty and takes the keys to the kingdom when the first gleam of scandal splashes across the glass. My stop comes fast. I get off, turn the corner to the block where the night clutches its coat tighter, and walk the long side under the old elms that remember when this neighborhood did not sell itself by the square foot. Behind me, footsteps practice not being footsteps. The sound thins when I stop and thickens when I move. I do not turn. I walk a different pace. The rhythm shifts. Not the same person. Two. One heavy, one impatient. At my building, I do not go in. I keep walking, past the chipped blue door, past the broken intercom, past the window with the sign about a cat missing since June. The footfalls pause like they are trying to remember the choreography of pretending to be lost. I slip into the bodega on the corner and stand between the plantain crate and the cooler of cheap beer. The man behind the counter nods at me like I am his cousin. I buy a pack of gum I do not want and let the cashier count back change in a voice that makes the night behave while I listen. The footsteps pass. The bell on the door does not ring. The curb mirror outside shows me a slice of a coat and the shadow of a cap brim. The cap tilts toward my building, then away, then back again. The gum tastes like mint and sugar and time to think. I leave by the back door and come around through the alley that smells like orange peel and last week. Upstairs, the deadbolt answers my key with a sound that could make a person believe in small mercies. Inside, I tip the caddy and slide the addendum out, lay it flat on the table like a patient, and smooth the crease with my palm until the fold marks soften. I put the photo beside it and draw a box in pencil around the words that will ruin a man if he lets them. The radiator coughs and finally starts to work. The window rattles once and then settles. My borrowed phone lies on the counter with its black glass eye and refuses to turn on. I plug it in and watch the charge crawl toward a number that feels like a chance. When the screen wakes, 2 messages stack under the threat I did not answer. The first is from a number with a name that is not saved, but the cadence smells like money. Tomorrow at 10, the penthouse, says the text. Final review. Contract signing at the gala. The second is shorter. No source. No signature. Knife clean. Last warning. I stand there with my hand on the table and the city leaning against the glass. I have scrubbed blood from grout and secrets from whitebards, and I have never minded other people's mess as long as I got to leave when my shift was done. This one wants me to stay. I take a breath and pick up the page again. My fingers find the edge where the paper cutter hesitated. My eye finds the line where the footer does not line up with the rest. The trap is not subtle. It is banking on speed and spectacle, and a man too in love to read. Midnight folds into one. One folds into two. The radiator ticks like a clock, trying to remember the name of each second. I print the photo. I fold the addendum into my jacket lining where the stitches are loose. I lace my boots because quick exits are a skill. I write one name on a sticky note and press it to the door. Bruno. If something goes wrong, I want the only person who ever calls me Miss Cruz to know first. When I finally crawl into bed, the building creaks like an old ship turning in dark water. My phone buzzes once on the counter. I do not get up. My eyes close because I have to. Sleep comes late and leaves early. At 8:20, a black car idles outside like a question. I button my jacket with the claws tucked under my heart and lock the chipped blue door. The morning is the kind that pretends to be kind. I slide into the back seat and tell the driver the address he already knows. Skyline Tower climbs the sky in clean lines. My palms sweat inside my gloves. My throat has a stone in it that will not move until I speak. Do not sign, I will say. But when the elevator opens on the private floor, the first thing I see is not Damien with his pen or Alara with her smile. It is Rowan, leaning on the edge of the desk I polished last night, watching the doors as if he ordered them, phone in one hand, a briefcase in the other, and the sour curve of a man who believes paper belongs to him. He says my name like a dare, and the pen on the table gleams like a trap that thinks it will get too close. Rowan leans on the edge of Damien's desk like he paid rent for the posture. Phone in one hand, briefcase in the other. Smile that belongs in a brochure about how to lose your soul and keep your suit pressed. Lena, he says, tasting my name like it might fight back. This is a private floor. I am here for Mr. Cade, I say. It is about the contract. He lets out a soft laugh that sounds like a door clicking shut. Legal has it handled. The private elevator opens with a breath and Damien steps out. No tie yet. Shirt sleeves rolled once like he took a swing at sleep and missed. He looks better in the morning than most people look on their best day, and for a second that almost helps me forget what paper can do to a person. Give us a moment, Rowan, he says. Rowan does not move. Damien looks at him the way a man looks at his own shadow when the sun is wrong. Rowan glides away 3 steps and pretends to read a view he already knows by heart. I pull the print from under my jacket lining and lay it on the desk. Not the original. That one is stitched under my heart where hands cannot get to it without cutting. This is the photo. Crisp. Legible. Sharp enough to draw blood. Where did you get this? Damien asks, voice low. Shred bin, I say. Executive lobby. Red folder. New page, old trick. He schemes. His eyes catch on morality default and stay there. I have seen the agreement. There is no such line. That is because someone slipped it in after your team signed off, I say. Look at the footer. The alignment is different by a hair. The page number is reprinted. The ink is colder. Whoever did it was in a hurry and thought the font would do the lying. The door sighs again. Alara appears in a white coat that sells brunch and mercy. Her smile lands on Damien, then flits past me like I am lint she plans to brush away later. Darling, she says, voice wrapped in cashmere. Are we ready for 10? I booked hair at noon. In a minute, he says without looking up. Rowan drifts back with papers that smell like toner and nerves. You can go now, he tells me, soft as poison. Housekeeping has already picked up the morning. I am not housekeeping today, I say. I am the reason he still owns his life by sunset. Damien's mouth tightens, but not at me. He sets the photo down precisely, squaring it with the desk pad as if geometry might force sense onto a trap. My lawyers will confirm. They cannot confirm what they have not been allowed to see, I say. This page did not ride in their copy. Whatever you sign tonight will not be what you reviewed. That addendum makes a rumor a trigger, not proof, an allegation, an appearance. One photo from the wrong angle and Alara becomes secondary steward over everything in your name while you answer questions for the rest of your life. Alara laughs, quiet, beautiful, lethal. This is absurd. It is efficient, I say, and it is in play. Damien lifts his eyes. He looks at me, not through me. There is a pulse in his temple that was not there when he walked in. Why are you doing this? Because I live by reading mess, I think. Because I have seen men bleed dignity into rugs I scrubbed for cash. Because someone texted me walk away and spelled my name right. I say the only thing that will fit through my teeth without breaking. Do not sign. Rowan steps between us, palm out, like he is stopping traffic. Enough. You have made your point. You have also exceeded your role. Take this. He slides a thin envelope across the desk. It fans open under the weight of air. Money. Crisp, green, insult. I set the envelope on his polished wood and push it back with one finger. My roll is clean, I say. This is not. Alara's phone lights and paints her cheekbones with a private sunrise. She glances, tucks the screen to her chest, and presses her lips into a line that knows practice. Security will escort you, she says to me, still smiling at him. Darling, you are the generous sort, but you cannot help everyone who brings a story. Damien's jaw works. For a breath, I think he will pick the right fight. Then the old reflex lands. He reaches for his phone. I will call counsel, he says, speaking to the room more than to me. We will verify. We will keep to schedule unless there is proof. I breathe once through my nose and bank what I can. When counsel calls archives, the page will be gone, I say. When they call print, the order will be clean. That is how this trick is built. Speed. Appearances. Tonight is a gala, not a negotiation. The pen is the weapon. If you must sign, strike the addendum first. Do it on camera. Make your own rumor. Rowan's smile finally cracks. Not much. Enough. Escort her, he says. I pocket the photo with the same motion I use to pocket a rag. Bruno meets me at the elevator like pure coincidence in a cheap jacket. His thermos smells like coffee and revenge. You leaving, Miss Cruz? He says, loud enough for cameras and small gods. For now, I say. Inside the elevator, the doors close and the hum wraps us like a secret. Bruno taps the side panel with a knuckle. The light blinks. He leans in. Rowan brought a case last night through the loading dock, he murmurs. Not the front. Not scanned. Signed the log with the wrong hand. I have never seen his watch on the right wrist. He did not want the camera to catch it. What time? I ask. Just before 2, he says. And a courier left 5 minutes later wearing the kind of shoes people do not run in unless they are paid extra. The doors open on the lobby. He hands me a visitor sticker I do not need and says, louder now, have a good day. I cross the marble. The revolving door breathes me out. My phone buzzes before the cold can. Unknown number. Same cadence. New line. Walk away. Lena. Last chance. I text back for the first time. 2 words only. No chance. Another buzz arrives before my thumb lifts. A live photo. Alara in a hotel elevator, hair down, jaw bare, mouth close to a man whose face is cropped at the nose. The edge of a tie. The corner of a jaw. The panel above them shows a name every night worker knows. Aurelia. A second image follows. Suite level corridor. Red runner. Gold sconce. A hand reaching for a handle that is not supposed to be touched by hands without family rings. Bruno's reflection slides across the glass of the door behind me, a blur that has learned how to be useful. I do not turn. My pulse learns a faster song. The city spills its noon light down the steps. I take it at a clip. At the curb, a black sedan idles with a driver who keeps his face blank for a living. Across the street, a woman in white steps into another car without looking left or right. She lifts her phone and tilts it away from the sun. For one clean second, the screen's reflection throws a hotel logo straight at me. Aurelia. Top floor. Private. I move. The unknown number pings again with an address and a timestamp like a dare. The street learns my stride and tries to keep up. In the glass of a storefront, two shapes lift from a doorway and fall in behind me, one heavy, one impatient. I do not run. I cut through a stream of lunch traffic and aim at the subway not because it is faster, but because it has cameras that do not blink. My phone vibrates in my palm a third time, a short line from a junior lawyer whose name I learned from a directory I was not meant to read. Archive door. Basement. 30 minutes. I will be there. I look up and see the private entrance of the Aurelia through the throat of the block. A bellman reaches for the handle of a car I know I cannot afford to scratch. The elevator panel above the awning blinks a soft arrow toward the roof. I taste copper. I grip the phone. Behind me, the footsteps quicken and match each other. In front of me, the hotel doors open like a mouth. The afternoon leans toward evening as if it has been told there will be a show. I step off the curb and do not look back. The Aurelia smells like power washed with citrus and steam. Brass breathes. Marble stays cool longer than a person should. I cross the lobby like I live there and do not look at the concierge who fishes faces out of memory for a living. The elevators glow in a hushed row. A woman in white sweeps past with her screen cupped in her palm. Suite level. Top floor. Private. The arrow blinks up, soft as sin. I slip left, past the velvet rope that assumes I will be polite, into the service corridor where the world looks like the back of a dress. Laundry carts. A mop leaning drunk against tile. A door marked staff only that has never met a cleaner who listens. My hands know how to belong. I pick up a room service tray and carry it like a badge while the busboy turns to cough. The service lift opens with a sigh that means yes if you act like yes is your birthright. Up. Stop. Up again. The top floor hallway is a red river with gold sconces for moons. Quiet that thinks it is expensive. My phone vibrates once. Archive door. Basement. 30 minutes. June's message sits there like a hand on my back. I clock the time. I have 15 to steal truth and live to use it. Voices ahead. A laugh that sleeps with a mirror. The wet zipper sound of two people too close. I move until the sconce light gives me a reflection in the window opposite the suite with the private crest. A cut of white coat. A hand on a dark lapel. Ilara, hair down, lips parted. Rowan, jaw lowered, his tie a little loose like a lie undressed. Their mouths hover, then land. The kiss is not mine, but the heat finds my face anyway. I raise the phone. One shot. No flash. No breath. The sound is the whisper a phone makes when it knows it has teeth. Footsteps behind me. A cough that is not a cough, just a body reminding me it exists. I slide the phone down my sleeve in the same motion I learned as a kid on a bus, candy palmed against a bully's eyes. I set the room service tray gently on a console and pick up the silver lid like it belongs to me forever. I walk. A door opens behind me. Ilara makes a sound that would punish a less expensive hallway. A hand grips my tote. Hard. Twist. The strap skids. Skin burns. I do not turn. I pivot. The lid becomes a shield. Metal meets wrist. A grunt flies to carpet and dies there. The tote tears free. The second shadow lunges and finds a wall with his shoulder. I slide into the stairwell and let the door seal on their surprise. Down 2 flights. The air grows truer. The stairwell smells like paint and bleach and rain caught in a collar. My pulse argues with the steps to see which can be faster. On the landing, my phone hums again. Same unknown number. Walk away, Lena. No punctuation. No grace. I keep moving. The lobby opens its mouth and wants to eat me for being rude. I cut through the bar, past ice that chimes when money laughs, and hit the side exit where the doorman sometimes lets kitchen staff smoke. Street. Wind. Daylight that looks like evidence. I turn once because a person can be brave and not stupid. 2 men spill from the hotel like the wrong pair of shoes, one heavy, one impatient. They clock the curb. They clock me. I do not run. I let the city be my bodyguard. A bus pulls up and groans. I step in through the back and ride 3 blocks without sitting. At Plato and 4th, I hop off into a crowd that has forgiven nothing and keep going east. 12 minutes. June's basement. My sleeve holds heat where the phone rests against skin. I feel the picture like a coin I cannot spend yet. Bruno's name sits on my tongue, a prayer with elbows. I decide I will not burn him unless fire has already reached the roof. A courier bike slices the traffic and clips my hip. Not an accident. He mutters sorry without a mouth. The tote swings. A hand reaches from the other side. I drop into the space between a mail truck and a stack of water jugs, pivot, and jam my elbow into rib. The hand gives up its plan. The bike is already gone. The impatient one swears. The heavy one huffs. They regroup at the corner and pretend they have always been there. I cut through a deli where the meat case knows what to tell cops and then down into the subway not to ride, but to borrow its cameras and its noise. I walk the platform to the other stairs and rise on a different street, a block closer to where I need to be. My phone buzzes and I almost ignore it, then see the name. June. 1 word. Early. I pass a flower stand. The woman there sees my face and pushes a small bouquet into my free hand the way women who live long enough learn to pass courage. I slip a bill into her jar and keep the flowers because a person who looks like she is carrying something gentle gets read as harmless by men who will never be. The law firm's service entrance is a steel door with a tired keypad and a camera that has met more lies than truth. I ring. A crackle. A pause. The door buzzes. I slip inside and hold my breath while the smell of paper and cold air fills my lungs. June waits at the bottom of the stairs with a badge that is not his color and a face that wants to hide under a desk. You are late, he says. You are early, I answer. We meet in the middle. He glances at my sleeve. Do you have it? Enough, I say. More later. We move. A corridor flickers like a memory that is trying to be useful. The archive door is metal with a small window that only lets light out. June slides the card. The lock thinks about it, then clicks. Inside, shelves tower like the ribs of something old and enormous. Boxes wear months on their faces like masks. A cooling unit hums the way a low animal hums before it sleeps. We have 6 minutes before anyone asks why we exist, June says. His hand shakes. He puts it on a cart handle to convince it to stop. We turn down a row and then another. He stops at a stack that does not look important, which is why it is. He pulls a box half free and it catches like a tooth. He yanks again. It gives. He slits the tape. Paper slides open like a throat. Real draft. Clean draft. Dirty draft. The dirty one has page numbers in gray that would never be gray if the printer had been honest. I feel the air shift. We are not alone. A light at the far end clicks. Not much. Enough. June looks at me and his eyes ask if we run or if we breathe. I tuck the bouquet under the cart and slide my phone from my sleeve with a movement that feels like a trick taught by my 15-year-old self. I snap 2, 3, 4 shots. Contract tree. Footer misaligned. Signature swap. The proof breathing. The motion sensor ticks again, closer. June's face goes whiter than the paper in his hands. I smell cologne. Not wrong. Expensive anyway. It threads the cold in a clean line. Shoes whisper on tile in a cadence that knows how to make a person doubt she heard it at all. June looks down at the box, at the knife, at his shaking hand. "Lena," he says. The light at the end of the aisle goes from soft to present. A shadow leaks around the corner. A figure fills the gap and stops. Not heavy. Not impatient. A different shape entirely. The breath in my lungs stands up. The bouquet slides from the cart and lands without sound. The figure steps forward and the profile resolves into a face I did not expect to see in a basement where truth gets filed. Ilara. White coat. Calm mouth. Eyes that have run out of charm and started counting knives. "Put that down," she says, voice low and sugar sharp. "Or the rumor becomes you." Ilara fills the aisle like perfume that learned to carry a knife. White coat. Calm mouth. Eyes that know which shelf holds the match. June freezes with the box cutter in his hand and a contract tree open like a wound. "Put the phone down," she says. "Or the rumor becomes you." I do not lower anything. I tuck my weight over my feet the way a girl does when a fight might happen on tile. The hum of the cooling unit lifts, a thin whine like a warning no one has time to parse. "You want a rumor," I say, voice low. "Try the Aurelia. Top floor. Red runner. Gold sconce. You kissed your finance chief where the cameras like to nap. I brought ice." Her chin lifts by a fraction. There is a gleam behind her pupils that is older than charm. She steps in, slow, as if my space is already hers. "You think a photo wins a war," she says. "I have drafts. I have editors. I have a board that believes the first thing they read if it comes with a logo. Put down the phone and walk away, and I will forget the part where you tried to matter." June swallows, and the sound is almost loud. His hand shakes so hard the blade hums. He is the kind of brave that hates itself and does it anyway. "Ilara," he says, so softly the paper between us could miss it. "This archive logs every access. If you are here, it is already a record." "Then I am a surprise audit," she answers. She looks past him to the open box and the gray page numbers that should never be gray. "Close that, and no one has to bleed." I take 2 steps that turn me sideways to both of them and land a palm on the stack labeled clean. The dirty one lies open under June's hands, page 19 glinting where the footer is colder than the text above it. I angle my phone. 2 clean shots. Footer. Signature swap. The old trick catching light. Ilara smiles without teeth. "You have no chain." I smile back with mine. "I have your voice in a basement that knows what it hears." Her head tilts, the kind of movement that says she enjoyed the sentence and plans to steal it later. Then she flicks a glance past us, over my shoulder. The motion sensor clicks again. Not 1 set of feet. 2. A shape fills the far door and blocks a slice of light. A second shape slides into the chamber behind it. Men built like doors. Suits that make their knuckles look expensive. "Last chance," she says. This time she is talking to June. He sucks in a breath and chooses. The box cutter kisses tape. He slashes the dirty draft free, lifts the stack, and shoves it into my arms without looking at me. "Run," he says, voice steadier than the rest of him. "Storage B to bindery to freight. Left, left, right. I will stall." "No," Ilara says, and she is almost bored. She lifts her hand and presses her thumb to a small brass plate on the end cap that I did not see until the plate glows. The cooling unit chokes. Red lights wink awake on the ceiling like cruel stars. Sprinkler, June whispers. She is going to drown the record. The first head pops with a cough and releases a fine mist that will turn to rain. Old paper drinks fast. Ink runs like gossip. Boxes warp and never forget. I shove the stack under my jacket and zip it against my ribs. The second head hisses. A line of water trembles on the lip. We have seconds, not minutes. Ilara steps back, the picture of concern. Archive incident, she calls into the air, voice crisp for the camera. Possible electrical. Evacuate. One guard moves to trip the power. The other reaches for June. He flinches but does not retreat. He is so scared his skin shines. He keeps his hand on the clean draft like the paper might hold his spine upright. I move. Left. Left. The aisle becomes wind. The bouquet rides the cart a foot and tumbles. Petals jump. I kick the stems under the shelf because a flower can slow a boot. The first guard curses and stubs his toe. The sprinkler lets go and the room becomes weather. Bindery smells like glue and hot metal and the quiet pride of people who never get named in press releases. I slam the door with my hip and throw the latch. It will not hold a long time. It will hold long enough. I yank a roll of plastic sheeting from the wall, the kind used when you do not want dust to land where it is not welcome. I wrap the dirty draft tight, tape the seams, and shove the bundle into a canvas mail sack like I am hiding a body that can breathe. My heart is in my mouth, and my mouth is in the work. The door thuds with a fist. The hinges answer with a small metallic grief. June bursts through the second door, hair plastered by the first wave of rain. He slams his shoulder to brace the frame and looks at me like he did not think I had made it and is mad that he doubted. Key, I say. He tosses a brass tag that reads freight in letters that have done their job since a decade I do not care to count. I catch it, spin, and yank the deadbolt on the back door that opens to a service hall with a floor that remembers every box rolled over it. The freight lift is at the end. Closed. Heavy. Patient. It blinks a dull green that means it might be in the mood to help. Go, he hisses. I will send it down. You are coming with me, I say. He looks at the door we braced with his shoulder and the wet that is pushing its way under it. He looks at the shape beyond the glass that is not glass, the silhouette of a man winding up to hit harder. He shakes his head once. I cannot run like you, he says. I can stand like me. Another thud lands. The latch groans. The metal lip holds. For now. He takes his hands off the door to put the clean draft into a dry bag, and his courage builds a fence in the space those hands leave. I do not waste the gift. I take the sack with the dirty draft and sprint. The freight controls are the sort only janitors and delivery people learn by heart. 2 taps with the knuckle on the left corner where the button stutters. Hold the bottom square until the motor remembers to listen. The lift opens with a sigh that almost feels like relief. I throw the sack inside and jab for loading dock. The doors start to kiss shut. From the end of the hall, a third figure steps from a side door and the air goes thin. Rowan. Dry. Composed. The sort of calm only men who break rules for recreation carry like a coat. He has a phone in one hand and a smile that reads like a verdict already written. I knew you would try the basement, he says. People like you always aim for the service exit. You think no one important uses it, and that is where you are wrong. My thumb hammers the close. The lift doors fight my fear and crawl. Rowan strolls, because men like him do not run. He talks while he walks because he likes the echo of his own certainty. You think a page matters, he says. Tonight is a show. All I need is one flash and one line, and his moral clause sings. The pen does the rest. The doors meet. The last thing I see is his wrist. Right hand again. Watch on the wrong side because he is hiding from a camera that already met his face last night. The lift hums down and my mouth fills with copper. The motor fights the weight of an old building that likes to hold people a second longer than they want to be held. Midway, the lift shudders and stops. The light blinks and decides to think about going out. I punch the panel with the heel of my hand. Nothing. I punch it again. A groan answers from behind the wall like an animal changing its mind. A voice crawls through the gap where the doors meet. Not Rowan. Not Ilara. Bruno. Miss Cruz, he says, quiet as a secret. You got company above and bad weather in the stacks. You got power below if you can drop to 1. How? I ask, pressing my mouth to the seam. A breaker in the cage, he says. Left of the dock. Big red. Flip and pray. I can give you 30 seconds before anyone asks why the cameras blink. After that, the board wants someone fired. I would rather it not be me. Do it, I say. The lift jolts. The light steadies. We drop another half floor and slam to a stop as if the shaft forgot it had a bottom. I throw my weight into the doors. They inch. Cold air knifes my face and the smell of oil and rain hits the back of my throat. I can get an arm through. Not a shoulder. Not yet. Above, a car barks in the alley. A door crashes. Footsteps fill concrete. A new voice cuts the clatter. Damien. Sharp. Angry in a way that finally sounds useful. You said 10 and no surprises, he says somewhere out of sight. Why is there water in my archive, and why is the woman who cleans my floors in my day acting like she is the only one who read a page? Rowan answers with silk. Ilara answers with light. Their words slide and shine. None of them reach me. Bruno's count hits my ear in a whisper I once had to learn to trust. 3, he says. 2. 1. The building hiccups. The cameras blink. The hum dies for a breath. The freight doors yield a hand's width, then 2, then another inch that could be a mile. I shove the sack through and belly after, skin scraping metal, jacket catching, breath gone. I spill onto the dock and pull hard until the canvas thumps my ribs and the doors sigh back together like a mouth that has decided to stop talking. The breaker cage sits under a flicker bulb that likes to scare people who do not know it. I flip big red and the world takes a breath and gives it back. The dock lights blink twice. The cameras cough and pretend they have been awake the whole time. A shadow crosses the gap under the roll-up gate. Then another. Heavy. Impatient. The pair from the hotel learned a new assignment. June bolts through the side door like a man running on the last leg of a relay. He carries the dry bag high above his head and his tie in his pocket because it strangled his luck. He sees me and he laughs, a sound that breaks in the middle, then finds its feet. We have to split, he says. If they get one of us, the other keeps the file moving. Where? I ask. He points with his chin to a courier locker unit that squats in the corner like a friend who minds his business. Box 8. Code you will remember. Your blue door number, back to front. I slam the sack into the locker and punch the code while he slides the dry bag into a second slot and does the same move with a number that is not mine. The metal doors latch with 2 small clicks that sound like good news. The roll-up gate rattles. The heavy one swears. The impatient one laughs. A siren screams somewhere beyond the alley, then eats its voice and pretends it was never there. The intercom on the wall crackles once. Bruno again. Miss Cruz, he says. They just called the gala. 9 hours early. They moved the signing to the stage and asked for more light. Ilara wants speed. Rowan wants a pen. Damien thinks law will save him while the orchestra warms up. The dock smells like oil and proof and the kind of rain that peels paint. June looks at me, hair dripping, hands shaking, eyes bright with a terror he is starting to use like fuel. We go up, he says. We show the room both drafts. He hears "do not sign" in front of people who cannot pretend they did not hear it. You bring the knife. I will bring the screen. The roll-up gate jumps as if a shoulder hit it hard. Bolts hold. For now. My phone buzzes with a text that chooses its moment with the manners of a vulture. Unknown number. 2 words. Stage right. I shove the phone in my pocket and grab the mail sack handle until the canvas bites my palm. The freight lift wakes and moans and starts to climb again under someone else's thumb. The alley door knob jiggles like a bad joke. June nods once. We run for the stairwell because stairs do not break when a story needs legs. The last thing I hear before the door swings is Bruno's voice, tired and loyal. I will keep them on the loading dock, he says. You make the paper loud. They moved the signing up and turned it into theater. Chandeliers blazing. Tables dressed like royalty. A screen taller than pride. Strings warming under a ceiling that looks like sugar. The kind of room that forgives crimes if you pour enough light on the glass. I slip in stage right like the text told me to. Crew in black hustle, eyes on cues, not on me. A curtain breathes against my shoulder. The mail sack cuts into my palm. June peels off toward the booth, hair still damp, jaw set the way paper sets when it decides it will not fold again. On stage, the chair introduces a partnership with a smile. Behind her, the screen rolls a reel of sunsets and factories and hands shaking hands. Damien stands at a small table with a pen that gleams like a threat. Ilara rests her fingers on his sleeve the way a person marks a seat. Rowan watches the exits like a shepherd who trains wolves. The host says words about trust and innovation and future. The orchestra slides into a soft swell. A spotlight finds the pen. It looks heavier in the beam. June texts one word from the booth. Now. I step out of shadow. Heel on wood. Voice in a microphone that was not meant for me. It takes the sound anyway. Do not sign. The room flinches. The orchestra misses a beat and then stops without arguing. Heads turn the way wheat turns when a wind decides itself. The chair blinks at me as if I have broken a spell. Ilara smiles and shows her teeth. Rowan does not change shape at all. Damien looks at me. Really looks. The crowd buzzes like a hive trying to remember which queen it serves. I lift the sack and drop it at my feet. I lift my phone and the screen behind me wakes to a split the booth did not plan for. June's work lands clean. Left side, the page Damien's team signed off on last week. Right side, the addendum with the cold footer and the teeth. The titles are the same. The lines are not. The right one sings its quiet venom into 1,000 eyes. Morality default. Credible allegation. Appearance of misconduct. Secondary steward. Ilara Pierce. The room inhales like it has just learned how. Rowan barks to kill the feed. A tech flinches. The screen flickers and then steadies because June is stubborn in ways the room has not met yet. Gasps lift from the gold tables and clatter to the floor. Ilara leans into her good shoulder and lets pity arrange her face. This is a misunderstanding, she says, voice honeyed and sure. We can fix this after. After is the trap, I answer. Strike the addendum first. In front of them. Then sign whatever you want. 2 guards step to the edge of the stage, cautious, trained to move without making it a scene. Rowan gives them a look that means take her like a purse. One hesitates. The other takes a step. I hold up my second blade. Hotel Aurelia, I say, and my voice does not shake. Top floor. Red runner. Gold sconce. The photo blooms to life on the giant screen before anyone can say a name. Ilara's mouth on Rowan's jaw. His tie loose. Her hand holding his shirt as if it were already hers. Silence drops like a curtain. You can hear the chandeliers hum and the sound 1,000 good wrists make when they stop wearing watches for a breath. Rowan changes color by half a shade and shows anger only in the way he widens his stance, as if balance can argue with evidence. Ilara does not move her face. She learned long ago that a still mask can outlast a storm. She finds the host's elbow with 2 manicured fingers and squeezes once, meaning steer. Photos can be edited, she says. We have all seen tricks. I nod. Then look at the lawyer. He is real. I lift my chin toward the booth. June. Give them the footers. The split shifts into a zoom. The right page glows colder, the number grayed, the spacing wrong by a hair that becomes a rope once you stare. A murmur rolls the room. People who sign things for fun applaud in their heads because a neat trick has been named. Rowan finally moves. He makes a small gesture to the crew and the screen coughs and goes black. The orchestra finds a note as if music can mop blood off tile. Security rounds the corner. The chair says we will take a short pause and smiles with a mouth that could be rented by the hour. A spotlight slides off me and tries to forget where it was. I do not leave. I step farther into the beam because hiding is a hobby for people who plan to keep secrets. Strike the addendum, I say to Damien, soft enough to make it sound like a fact. Say it into a mic. Then breathe. The pen glints. His hand floats above the line that will break his knees if he lets it. He glances at Counsel off stage. Counsel is on a phone, eyes far away, lips moving to a voice that will not ride into this room in time to matter. Ilara ticks her nail against the table. Rowan lowers his chin as if to smell victory. Damien's pulse beats in his neck like a trapped thing. He looks to the crowd because he was told the crowd can save a man if he gives it a beautiful enough story. June's text hits my palm. Battery dying. 1 shot left. I squeeze the phone and raise it again. The screen revives for a breath and throws up a final frame. The signature page with the neat box ready for his name. The right corner shows a faint mark from a print roller that misses once every 100 sheets. The kind of flaw a pressman would know and a liar would not. The kind of flaw you can trace to a time and a job number and a hand. Do not sign, I say one last time, quieter now, so it lands where it needs to. Rowan snaps his fingers. 2 guards close hard. 1 goes for the phone. 1 goes for the sack. I turn my shoulder and the first gets forearm, not wrist. The second meets canvas like a wall. He grunts and holds. I do not let go. The tug makes a sound that would be funny if we were not standing on a stage with a man about to hand over a name for a kiss. The screen, dead a moment ago, wakes again without June. A new clip climbs out of the dark, ugly and too convenient. A grainy angle of me in a basement aisle taking a box with fast hands. A security stamp in the corner that will read as proof to people who want an easy answer. A second cut spliced right after, me in a corridor taking an envelope from a man you cannot see. The crowd hisses the way a crowd hisses when it is asked not to think. That is a lie, I say, but lies never care what I call them. Ilara lifts her hands like a saint in a painting and lets a tear sit where the light can find it. We are all so tired, she says to the room. Let us be kind. Damien, sign, and we will fight the rumor together. Rowan steps behind him and flips a page with a flourish a magician would clap for. The pen waits. The chair leans forward. The orchestra does not breathe. The 2 guards dig in and wrestle at my elbows. The sack screams over the stage floor. I feel the strap begin to give. Across the first rows, phones tilt like sunflowers. People film because people always do. In the far aisle, a man in a blazer cuts toward the booth at a run. He is not security. He is a boy who has decided that today he earns his job. He dives for a cable and yanks. The fake feed dies with a hiccup and the screen goes clear, stupid, and honest. I suck air and rip my arm free for half a second and use it like a blade to point at the pen. Strike the addendum. Now. Damien's eyes meet mine. Something audible moves behind his face. For a heartbeat, Choice stands there naked. A voice booms from the balcony, out of place and official in a way that sounds like a closing door. Not the chair. Not counsel. The board's outside fixer. A man with a haircut that apologizes for nothing. The allegation already triggered, he says. The clause is live. Signature is a formality. Please proceed. 1,000 necks twist upward. The word already drops into the room like a stone through water. Ilara's mouth brightens at the corners. Rowan's laugh is a breath, not a sound. The guard on my left gets new orders in his ear. The strap in my fist tears. Damien looks down at the line that will take his life if he lets it. The pen lifts off the table by the smallest possible height. From the side wing, someone shouts my name like a rope. A shape barrels past the curtain with a thermos in one hand and purpose in both legs. Bruno. The lights blow, not all, just enough. The chandeliers stutter. The screen flashes white, then something brighter that makes the front rows turn their faces away. And in that white, before the power decides who it belongs to, the envelope in Rowan's fingers slips and a thin red folder kisses the stage and opens like a mouth. The white blast from the screen washed the stage clean for a heartbeat. Then gravity remembered its job. Papers lifted, spun, and rained. A thin red folder slid from Rowan's fingers, kissed the floor, and opened like a mouth. Bruno hit the apron with his shoulder and ate the space between me and the nearest guard. His thermos cracked a wrist with the sound of a dry branch giving up. June killed the fake feed from the booth with one last slam on a loose cable and threw the footer zoom back up in a blink before dyeing his own screen on purpose. The chandeliers stuttered. The crowd rose like a tide that had forgotten to be polite. I dropped to my knees and scooped the red folder into my jacket like it was a small animal. A guard grabbed the strap of my sack and swore when canvas refused to be a handshake. Bruno's forearm found his throat and asked it to rest. The chair announced a pause into a dead mic. The orchestra saw reason and held still. Rowan's voice slid through the noise, cool and instructional. Proceed. He reached for a fresh pen. The outside fixer lifted his chin from the balcony and repeated himself as if repeating turns lies into furniture. The clause already triggered. Please proceed. Damien stared at the line like it had spoken. Ilara lifted her chin and let the room read her as mercy. She touched his sleeve one more time. It was not a caress. It was a claim. Fire code saved me where decor would not. Someone tripped an alarm. A clean chime broke into a hard wail. The side doors released with a clunk that sounded like common sense. Staff in black started routing donors like sheep with pearls. Phones filmed everything and nothing. Bruno hauled me toward the wing. June met us in the dark with a smile that was half disaster, half glory. We ran into a hallway that smelled like cables and sweat. Behind us, a security radio crackled with numbers that meant converge. Ahead, the loading dock hissed cold and honest. Out in the alley, air slapped me awake. Sirens argued 2 streets over. The city welded a headline while the gala fumbled for a narrative. I opened the red folder under a humming floodlight and breathed in toner and arrogance. A memo on Carta letterhead described the event timeline for photo placement and announcement flow. A press draft named a scandal starter kit in bullet points. One of the bullets was a hotel's top floor. Another was a contract clause that could survive on rumor. The last page listed steward appointment protocols with Ilara's initials at the margin and a note in a hand that thought it would never be seen. All set once he signs. June slid the pages into plastic sleeves like a medic sliding gauze over a wound. Bruno kept one eye on alley shadows and one on the freight gate. My phone buzzed in my pocket with the speed of a heart-finding stairs. Nora. Freeze motion granted. Farah. Injunction filed to halt execution of any addendum pending fraud review. June's screen lit his face the color of proof. He sent a copy to 5 places I would never be able to find even if I wanted to. Redundancy is love when paper bleeds. The next hour moved like a cutscene. The board called an emergency hold on transfers. Council went silent and then too loud. A feed from the ballroom showed the chair apologizing for the excitement, while Rowan whispered to a man with a watch face that never stopped shining. Ilara left through a kitchen door with her coat over her arm and a look that could strip paint. Damien disappeared. He reappeared on the dock with a face I had not seen yet. The careful was gone. The money was not a shield. His shirt was wrinkled and his hands were empty, and he looked, finally, like a person who had been told that paper loves no one. "Come with me," he said to me, not a command, a choice wrapped in urgency. "You are not safe on your block tonight." "I am never safe on my block," I said. He heard the humor and did not take it. He lifted a key fob, and for once the doors that opened for men like him were going to work for a woman like me. We rode without speaking. The penthouse met us like a museum that had learned a new rule. No glass, no stage, no audience, just a city spread out like it had learned shame. I set the sack on a table that had never known a stain and laid the red folder beside it. He stood across from me and did not take a step closer. We were 2 people at either end of a bridge we both were wary of. "You were right," he said. He did not try to make the sentence pretty. I did not read what wanted to kill me. I trusted a room that loves mirrors. I opened the folder and showed him the bullet that said hotel and the bullet that said rumor and the bullet that said all set once he signs. He read. He went still. The vein at his temple stopped fighting and became a line you could write your name on. June texted a stack of orders in small, honest sentences. "Do not leave. Keep the red folder flat. Farah is on her way with a notary and a guard who brings his own coffee. Lock the balcony. Do not answer anyone with soft hands." We ate crackers with our hands because anything fancier would have been an apology to a night that did not deserve one. The phone on the island lit with calls he did not answer. I plugged mine into a wall that hummed too quietly and sent Bruno a thumbs up with a line that said, "I owe you a decent lunch." He sent back a photo of his thermos and a city that had decided to soften into rain. News hit like weather from 3 sides. Someone leaked a clip of me on stage that cut before the addendum showed its teeth. Someone else leaked the kiss in a frame that did not allow the eye to argue. A third stream ran a shot of Rowan's cuff sliding across the stage as the red folder slipped free. The comments loved drama more than law. The injunction would not trend. The photo did. At 2 in the morning, a small sound tapped the glass like a polite bird who had learned to be menacing. We both turned. A drone floated outside the balcony like a hateful toy, rotors whispering. A string dangled a note the size of a hand. "Be smart or be gone," it read in block letters. It bounced on its thread once and cracked against the pane. Damien crossed the room in 3 long steps and palmed the lock. I shook my head and he stopped an inch from foolishness. I pulled the blackout curtain instead, and the drone's reflection lost itself in our faces and left. He stood there with his palm on fabric and his jaw closed, and I could see the map redraw behind his eyes. He had bought silence once. Tonight he learned it never loved him back. June's text cut the quiet. Court set a morning session. Bring red folder. Bring yourself. Do not bring guilt. Farah added a line a beat later. Sleep in shifts. I will be at the door at 6 with a badge and a pen. He set a blanket on the couch and did not insist. I rolled my jacket under my head because my body trusts old habits more than new bedding. I kept the sack between the couch and my ribs because trust is a word I will not spend in the first hour. I woke to a whisper from the hall camera. Nora. She had let herself in with a code she had not asked permission to learn. She moved like a person whose job is keeping water where it belongs. She swept the room with a small wand and found a microphone hidden in a vase that did not deserve it. She lifted it with 2 fingers and looked at me. "He is in your walls," she said. "Not forever. Tonight." Damien swore once under his breath, a single syllable that sounded like a man realizing his own house had been taught to lie. He reached for the vase. Nora shook her head and slipped the bug into a bag with a zipper shaped like restraint. "Do not touch anything else," she said. "I want Prince. He is sloppy when he is excited." The balcony curtain breathed against the glass. The drone had left, but the city had not. A small red dot danced for a second on the ceiling and vanished. Laser or old wiring, I could not tell. My skin believed the worst and behaved accordingly. June pinged with a new file. A bored email chain where the fixer asked for a copy of the addendum at lunch yesterday. A reply with a forwarded attachment and a timestamp that put the swap between dessert and car service. The chain ended with 2 words from Rowan. "All set." I poured water into a glass that had never held tap and fed a plant that looked too expensive to fail. He watched me with his hands on the counter, knuckles white in a way I liked. Not from rage. From clinging to not drowning. "Thank you," he said. "Just that. No bow. No promise. No barter." It landed and stayed. I lifted the red folder and traced the imprint of a staple that had been removed in a hurry. I felt the scratch it left in the paper's skin. June sent one more line. "Morning will be ugly. Do not answer to a version of you they write." The hallway camera whispered again. Tiny footsteps. Not Nora. Someone else. A code tried the door. The panel blinked green, then red, then green again as if a hand had been loaned a permission it did not deserve. Nora drew a breath and reached for her pocket. Damien straightened and forgot he was tired. The lock made a small, traitorous click. The handle began to turn. The handle turned. The deadbolt lifted like it had been taught a new master. Nora's hand flashed. A silver key slipped into the side latch and locked the tongue halfway, the kind of street trick you learn when a door forgets who it belongs to. The gap opened to a finger's width. A breath of cologne came through, clean and arrogant. "Back away," Nora said, low and plain. "This home is under a court order and an active sweep." Silence. Then a whisper at the seam, soft enough to be a smile. "Open, Lena." Wrong voice on my name. I stepped beside the frame so my heartbeat did not touch the line of the door. Damien reached for the security tablet. Nora shook her head once. She tapped a command on her phone and the panel went dark. The handle turned again, found nothing, and gave up. Footsteps retreated down the hall with the slow confidence of a man hoping to leave fingerprints that will never matter. "We have them," Nora said, already moving. "Prints on the exterior pull. Keypad code use. The building log shows who loaned that access. He wanted us to find it. He wanted ownership to look porous. He wanted a rumor with a floor plan." She slid the bug bag into her pocket, left us with a look that said lock the balcony twice, and vanished to fetch the log before the system could forget. Dawn came mean and fast. Farah arrived in boots and a coat that meant court. A notary with a folder. A guard with a coffee that was not for show. The red folder lay flat on the table where even sunlight could not bully it. We signed chain of custody lines like people building a bridge while a river tried to spit us out. "We need wire," Farah said. "We need shred. We need a human mouth who saw the swap and is tired of being furniture." Damien gave us keys that had always worked for other people. Nora brought up feed from the loading dock and the law firm and the print shop. June met us in the garage with his hair still wet from a shower taken in fear and stubbornness. We split. I took Bruno and a tote and the quiet permission to go where only the night shift knows how to walk. We started with the bin that had given me the claws with teeth. Fresh bags had gone in. The old bags waited in a cage like a choir of secrets. Bruno signed the ledger, shrugged at the camera, and rolled a sack onto the concrete. Shred curls stuck to my wrists like static. I sorted strips by font and cut, and the ghost of toner on fingertips. There it was. The sentence I knew by heart. If the signatory is subject to a morality default. Here a strip. There the word appearance. Here the phrase secondary steward. Bruno leaned his bulk against the table and held the curl of paper steady with 2 fingers while I matched the teeth. His thermos lid served as a weight. The pieces obeyed. A line returned to itself. Then another. Slowly, the monster's mouth reassembled on our cheap tape until it could bite again for the right reason. "Photo it," Bruno said. "Then keep taping. We might need the whole paragraph to make a judge believe she sees what she sees." We bagged it, labeled it, sent a clean copy down the wire to Farah. Her reply came back with a single word that felt like a hot drink. Good. Next stop, the print shop that handled the gala program, because donors like their names on paper that smells like new money. The manager met us with a face that said he hated attention and a register that saved him anyway. June slid him a copy of the footer zoom without explanation. The man squinted and grunted. "That roller mark is ours," he said. "Press 3. Leaves that little soft edge when we are pushing a deadline. Job number ends in 7-9. I will have a pull receipt on the back office machine." He printed the receipt while his hand shook. He signed and stamped like a person who has never enjoyed his own handwriting and chose to use it anyway. Then he did one better. He went to the back door and whistled a note you only learn from long mornings. A courier emerged from the alley with a helmet tucked under his arm and a look that said he had seen more night than was healthy. He lit a cigarette and exhaled regret. "Same man as yesterday," he said without being asked. "Right wrist watch. Red folder. Told me to carry the packet to the back of the hotel, not the front. Tip like he was buying silence, not service. I was happy to rent mine for an hour. I am less happy now." Bruno showed him the photo of the cuff sliding across the stage before the light blew. The courier whistled his same note again, lower. "You are going to want the curb camera," he said. 14 minutes before the pickup. He swapped one packet for another for a man in a coat who never looked up. The swap ride back out in a hand I did not see because I was looking at the red and he wanted me to. We got the curb angle. We got a timestamp. We got the tilt of a chin that could have been a shadow if you wanted your life easy. It was not a shadow. It was a profile I could trace with my eyes closed. Ilara under a hood, face half hidden, hand out like the world owed her its contents. June sent the clip to Farah and did not bother to breathe until the checkmark turned blue. Farah's next message was a line of law that read like a blade. Inducement. Fraud. Interference. She would put the words where they belonged. The rest of us would carry the paper to the room that needed to choke on it. We went back to Skyline Tower. Bruno got us into the service corridor that wrapped Rowan's office like the hem of a skirt. Day staff chatted over oatmeal and emails. The shredder in Rowan's suite still wore a warm smell. The cleaning closet across from his door held a bag that had not been collected yet because the day had started with alarms and theater. I slit the bag slow. Out slid a handful of strip ladders that read like a confession that did not understand itself yet. We took them to the window. Scotch tape on glass. Light behind. Strip to strip. The sentence rose again. Then the margin note in the same hard hand from the memo. Page 19. Swap clean after dessert. The office door opened. Rowan stood there with a face like nothing had happened. His cuffs were new. His watch had gone back to the left wrist. He took in the tape on the glass and the thermos on the sill and my hands. He smiled. "You trespass," he said. "You forged," I said. He glanced at the shred strips and let the corner of his mouth twitch. "That is not a forgery. That is a late addition." "Late is the point," I said. He stepped forward until the rules caught up to him. The security camera in the corner blinked awake. A shape in it turned out to be Bruno's patience. "You think you can drag this into the boardroom and make it stick," Rowan said. "He will sign in public or in private or in a word he does not understand. Either way, the clause sings. The story is already written." "Then come here a new one," I said. He leaned in as if he were going to smell fear on my skin. He found paper instead. He did not like it. June knocked on the doorjamb with the authority of a man who had found his spine in the act of losing his job and did not plan to misplace it again. Behind him stood Farah, coat open, eyes clear. A guard with a badge that had not been borrowed. They did not ask permission to enter. They did not raise their voices. They set down folders on Rowan's polished desk like rocks placed in a river. "We will be using the boardroom," Farah said. "Bring counsel. Bring your calendar. Bring your best manners." Rowan looked at her and tried on charm. It slid off. We crossed the hall. The boardroom wore glass and steel and a table long enough to convince men they were as important as they believed. Chairs waited, spines perfect. A carafe sweated on a tray. The city burned late morning through the window and did not pick a side. People arrived like weather. The chair with a jaw you could measure grain against. The fixer from the balcony with a haircut that apologized for nothing. Two directors with pens that clicked when they were nervous. Ilara in black with a scarf that did not pretend it had not been kissed by the wrong cologne. Damien came last, alone, a man who had learned something about where to stand when a room wants to eat you. Bruno took a seat against the wall where a witness sits when he knows he will not be asked and will answer anyway. June opened a laptop that had been a cheap machine yesterday and now looked like a lever. Nora walked in without announcing herself and set a small bag on the credenza. She pulled out a microphone, a bug, a swipe log, a print shop receipt, and a cufflink she had borrowed from evidence long enough to photograph the engraving with its letters turned sideways to catch the light. Farah stood at the head of the table and did not clear her throat because the room would not get her voice on sale. She slid the red folder into the center, face up, the staple scar visible, the memo peeking. The chair looked down and did not look away. "This room is where lies must sit," Farah said, "and where paper stands." She handed out copies in sleeves with tabs that made flipping feel like a ritual. The chair read. The fixer read and tried not to show he had already seen 2 of the pages. Ilara did not sit. Rowan did and crossed his legs with the caution of a man who no longer trusts furniture. Damien did not reach for the red folder. He kept his hands on his knees and his face steady. He looked at me once. It was not a request. It was not a thank you. It was the glance of a person who knows which person in the room will tell the truth without asking if a microphone is on. The door eased shut. The air wired itself for heat. Phones went face down on wood like guilty dogs. The chair put a finger to the table and the room obeyed. She turned to me. "Ms. Cruz," she said, "you brought this in from a shred bin. Start at the addendum. Then take us to the hotel." My mouth tasted like pennies and courage. I placed my fingers on the edge of the sleeve so they would not shake. My notes lived in my head and in my hands and on the tape on a window across the hall. I drew a breath. The side door opened without a knock. 2 officers stepped in, not for me, not for Damien. They were here for a man who had believed his watch could hide his wrist forever. Rowan smiled anyway. The chair raised her hand to hold the officers where they were. "After," she said, "we will hear Ms. Cruz first." Every face in the room turned. The city pressed its nose to the glass. I lifted the page with the cold footer so they could see how a line can be sharpened to a point and aimed at a man's name. And then, somewhere under the table, a phone vibrated against wood until the sound turned into a small drum. Ilara's eyes flicked down. She did not pick up. She did not need to. The message preview flashed once in light that loved drama. "Sign anyway. Clause live. Stage set. The preview flashed on Alara's screen like a dare. Sign anyway. Clause live. Stage set. The room felt it without needing to read it. The boardroom's glass swallowed sound and fed us heat. Farah tapped the red folder with one fingernail. We start with sequence, she said. Then we show intent. I laid the cold footer page under the center light. The gray number sat wrong by a sliver that might look like nothing if you wanted your life easy. No one in this room got that luxury today. June mirrored the zoom on a side monitor so no one could blink past it. The chair leaned in until the veneer reflected her lashes. Next, Farah said. Bruno slid the taped strips onto the table, Scotch lines neat as stitches. The sentence we rebuilt from the shred bin showed its teeth. Morality default. Credible allegation. Appearance. Underneath, our photo of the tape on Rowan's window made the room remember that paper has a body and bodies resist. June's voice steadied as he walked the thread. Print shop roller mark, he said, and the manager's statement landed on the stack. Job number 79, he said, and the pull receipt folded in like a card trick. Courier testimony, back entrance, red folder, packet swap, he said, and the curb camera still caught Alara's hooded profile reaching for what was not hers. The fixer in the balcony lowered his chin by a millimeter. He had already read 2 of these pages and hated being told so out loud. Nora set down the bug bag like a small coiled snake. Device recovered from the penthouse, she said. Swipe log shows a borrowed code used at 0212. Door handle touch prints match to a wrist you keep moving for cameras. Your facilities director will confirm, she added, and the man in the corner who had not planned to speak that morning realized he had rehearsed for this his whole life. Farah pointed with her pen. And the memo, she said. Timeline. Photo placement. Announcement flow. Steward appointment. Margin note in the same hand as the shred strip. All set once he signs. Alara did not blink. Her scarf sat on the black dress like frost. This is ambitious, she said, voice calm as glass. And speculative. It is a map, Farah said. And this is the road, she added, sliding the injunction across to the chair. Freeze on execution of any addendum pending review for fraud. And a preservation order for every record you are thinking of misplacing. Rowan tried charm and found the edge dull. You cannot drag an internal disagreement into a public circus, he said. You brought the circus, Bruno muttered against the wall. It carried anyway. The chair lifted her gaze to me. Ms. Cruz, she said, say the words you said on stage. Say them here. My mouth went dry and did not stop me. Do not sign, I said. Strike the addendum. Say it into the record. Then rewrite whatever future you think a pen can promise. Damien did not look at me. He looked at the paper that had tried to own his name. When he spoke, it was to the chair. Motion to void the late addendum, he said, clearly. Motion to remove Hale from any authority over my signature, my calendar, and my life. Rowan smiled like a blade. You lack a quorum. The chair raised one eyebrow at the fixer. He nodded once, the smallest bow to a power he did not own. We have quorum, she said. We vote now. Hands rose. Pens ticked. The clerk's voice found a rhythm that sounded like a door closing on a storm. Motion to void carried. Motion to remove carried. A third motion arrived uninvited and found chairs anyway. Independent counsel to investigate misrepresentation and interference. Carried. Alara's smile cracked by a breath and then held, the way tempered glass holds just long enough to think it might win. We can still control the narrative, she said to the fixer. The narrative is evidence, Farah answered. Nora opened her little bag again and set one last piece on the table. A cufflink, photographed from the gala floor before the stage went white. The engraving blinked in the print like a wink that had remembered shame too late. RH. The chair did not need it. The officers did. They stepped forward and Rowan stood because pride loves an audience. He did not fight. He would save that for later, with paper that had run out of tricks. Elara drifted toward the door that opens for people who think they do not need doors. The guard on the frame did not move aside. She held her coat without putting it on and finally looked at me in a way that meant she had noticed I was human. It did not arrive as respect. It arrived as an inventory. Was it worth it? She said quietly. I did not give her a moral. I gave her a fact. You almost won. The chair dismissed the room without standing. People rose in pieces. Phones crawled back to hands and learned who to fear next. The fixer left first, already calling someone who would beg him to stop speaking. The clerk gathered signed copies with a care that made me love her a little. The officers took Rowan. He made no sound. Elara stayed fixed on me with a smile kept up by wires. When she finally walked, the scarf caught on the chair and tore a thread thin as a hair. She did not turn back. We ended in the hallway where air knew what it was for. June sagged against a column and laughed twice from lack of anything else to do. Bruno handed me his thermos and said, "Careful, it bites." Nora texted 3 people at once with her thumbs and 1 more with her eyes. Farah put a page in my hand and spoke like a metronome you can march to. "You will be called a thief of drafts," she said. "You will be called worse. Answer to none of it. Show up. Tell the same story every time in the same words. Paper will hold." Damien stepped into the hall with his coat over one shoulder and a face that had started to forgive him. He stopped at a distance that honored a night like this. "Walk with me," he said, not as a reward, not as a command, as an offer that knew it might be refused. The elevator waited. The city outside the glass looked like it had washed itself and decided to try again. I thought of the mop lines on the lobby floor, straight even when no one looked. I thought of my blue door, chipped and true. I thought of the text that told him to sign anyway and how close we came to living inside that lie. "I have a shift," I said. 2 actually. Shred and shelves. He nodded. He understood ours now. He lifted his hand as if to touch my sleeve and put it back down without apology. "After," he said. "No stage. Soup. A street where no one knows my name. After paper," I said. "After rooms learn to behave." We stood there with the echo of that in the metal seams. Behind us, the boardroom door clicked into its frame and made the sound of a hinge finding home. In my pocket, the unknown number tried one last time and failed to frighten me. It sent a single word that thought it still owned something. "Later." I turned it face down. Bruno grunted approval. June wiped his glasses on his sleeve and pretended not to look at me, which is how Grace behaves when it gets tired. Farah squeezed my shoulder once, a punctuation mark I did not know I needed. I took the stairwell because elevators are for people who have not learned their legs. On the landing, the building breathed. On the street, the light hit the glass and did not lie. I walked east toward my block where the intercom never worked and the radiator coughs before it sings. My key was warm in my palm. My name was still my own. Halfway down the steps, my phone buzzed again. Not threat. A short, clear line from June. Court at 9. Bring the red folder. I will bring the screen. I smiled without showing teeth. The wind lifted my hair. The door at the bottom of the stairs stood up straight and waited. I chose it. I put my key in the lock. And the city, wicked and alive, let me in.